Biodiversity by Kimberly Bolita and Damaris Passmore. What is biodiversity? The variety of animals, plants, fungi, and even microorganisms like bacteria that make up our natural environment are all included in what is known as biodiversity. These various species and critters collaborate in a complicated web-like ecosystem to keep things in balance. Types of biodiversity. We have ecosystem diversity, species diversity, and genetic diversity.
Genetic diversity. Genetic diversity refers to the diversity within the species that encompose the different DNA among individuals. The greater the genetic diversity, the higher the chance of the long-term survival. The lower the genetic diversity, the higher vulnerability to the environmental change or disease. Example, different breeds of dogs as a result of selective breeding.
Species diversity. The quantity or variety of species in a given area are measured by species richness, the numbers of species, species evenness, relative abundance of individual of each species, importance of species diversity. By raising the possibility that species would use a resource, it can also raise the likelihood that a particularly productive or efficient species is present in the population. Increasing species diversity can influence ecosystem functions such as productivity. Example, in a forest, there may have a large number of different species, but have only a few members of each species.
Ecosystem diversity. The variety of different habitats, communities, and ecological processes. Size, shape, and connection among paths. Beaches, cliffs, coral reefs, and ocean. Environmental effects can constantly be present in varied environments. There may still be potential for organism relationships to persist even when human activity and other environmental issues have a significant negative impact on a complex ecosystem. For example, grasslands, tundras, deserts, rainforests, terrestrial and marine ecosystems.
Ecosystem stability. The capability of a natural system to apply self-regulating mechanisms to return to a steady state after an outside disturbance. Ecosystem structure is when the species and environmental elements, including the quantity and distribution of nutrients in a certain habitat, make up the ecosystem structure. Ecosystem function is the ability of a natural event and element to produce goods and services that either directly or indirectly meet human needs.
Biodiversity loss. The WWF's Living Planet Report 2022 finds wildlife populations have declined by an average of 69% in the past 50 years.
How much should you care about biodiversity? What would happen to the world if the Amazon rainforest lost its trees? As we know, trees help produce oxygen and clear the world of CO2. The forest stores up to 120 metric tons of carbon, equivalent to almost 12 years of global CO2 emissions. If Amazon lost its trees, how much of that CO2 would go into the atmosphere single-handedly, pushing the global climate beyond safe limits? What would happen in its ecosystems if the Amazon rainforest lost one species of pollinators? The Amazon relies mostly on bees to pollinate its vegetations. If the delicate balance of the pollination cycle were to be offset, the Amazon would lose many of its species, causing a significant decrease in biodiversity. What can we do to help maintain biodiversity? Investing in alternative options to single-use plastics. Example, thermals instead of water bottles. Reduce the amounts of plastic let into the ocean, which causes many species to lose its population. When available, using public transportations help reduce your carbon footprints, as well as helping the ecosystem. While there is not much possible to do every day to specifically help biodiversity, taking care of our own environment helps the ecosystem, which helps maintain biodiversity. While the Amazon rainforest scenario is merely hypothetical, questions now, the Amazon rainforest is losing many species that help preserve its biodiversity. The more species that are lost, the less tree it has. There will in turn be less life in the ecosystem, affecting the world, affecting us. Why is biodiversity so important? Since physical processes cause the characteristics of Earth to change over time, the environment remains in constant change. Most importantly, studies shows that life itself is a major driver of environmental change, and organisms are a great factor of this change. So caring about diversity encompasses much more than an ecosystem. It encompasses Earth.